Learn the art of investing on Moneywise.
I'm quite certain this is a weekly exercise for a lot of us to take stock of how we are doing with respect to various goals that we've set for ourselves, personal, financial, fitness, health, and so on, and find that perhaps there is one element that is kind of missing in our ability to commit to those goals and realize them, and that is discipline. I'm not saying everybody is like that, but I am certainly one of those people. Welcome to the Moneywise Podcast. My name is Sheetal, and you've guessed it right. Discipline is what we're going to be exploring as an idea, because this, as a lot of our guests on the Moneywise Podcast has spoken about, is critical to our ability to realize our goals when it comes to our finances. And we've decided to call on an expert to help us understand. Khyati Mashru Vasani is here. She is Chief Financial Coach at Plantrich Consultancy LLP. And I always say when there is talk of discipline, we almost always think of a classroom situation. And where there is a classroom, there has to be a coach. And that coach is Khyati for us today. By the way, she's been on a mission to help 10,000 families rewrite their money story. And she's been an entrepreneur since 14 years. Her passion lies in discovering the financial DNA of individuals. And she has, as a part of her organization, the privilege of being personal CFO to more than 400 families with a team of 12 people. She's been on panels with NDTV. She's been awarded with Young Innovator in Finance for 3 consecutive years. She's been a columnist at various mainstream publications. And that is why I believe she is the person we should ask this question to. And the question is, what is the need for discipline in our financial journey? But first up, welcome to the show, Khyati, and how are you doing today?
Hi Sheetal. I'm doing absolutely fine, and it's a delight to actually be on this podcast.
So if you could describe or define discipline in the context of an investor's financial journey, I think we would have gotten off to a great start on this podcast.
So yeah, I come across a lot of people, Sheetal, and this is a single most thing, discipline, which is actually underrated when it comes to one's financial journey. But discipline is something which is very important in all walks of life. Even when we were actually kids and going to school, we could not really go whenever we wanted to, and we could not just move out of the school when we wanted to.
Right.
We had to be disciplined in terms of timing. Even that there were lectures were of that limited timing, and the teacher also had to end that lecture in that 40-45 minutes. So, those little things are very, very important. And what happens is cumulatively, when you do that for many years together, that is where you'll actually see the results. So it is same when it comes to discipline. I call it like the most important ingredient for your financial success. And it's same like fitness. If you don't really work out daily, you won't see results. Right. So it's same with your finances. If you don't do it in a disciplined manner regularly, you're not going to be able to see any considerable results. And then, people come back and say, okay, this is only something for people who already have a lot of money and not something for.
That's a great explanation. You've given us 2 analogies over here. One is that of fitness, and I think people can understand that. And the school one, I think, was brilliant. You can't simply just walk into a school when you want and leave when you want and expect to actually get an education. I love that analogy already. But let's boil it down to behaviors that one can then associate with being disciplined. Because so far, understood the importance of it, but exactly what must I do to be disciplined when it comes to my investment journey?
So, Sheetal, there are quite a few things that one can do. But today I have listed down 5 things that, at least as a beginner, one can think about doing. First and the most important thing is budgeting. Your monthly and annual budget needs to be in place. When I talk about budgeting, sometimes it sounds really boring to people that, why budgeting? Why must I leave, my entire month just out of a certain amount of money?
Right.
Budgeting is something which is very important. Even like a large companies have their yearly budgets, have their monthly budgets. Even our country comes up with the budget, right? So your family also is an organization in itself, a small little organization. And I think this organization, for the success, also has to have budget in place.
Right.
And more important, to stick to that budget and align it within the family. Set up your annual budgets, like how much are you going to spend on a holiday? Let's say if you've taken, a very, very great luxurious holiday this year, maybe next year you can do a good Indian destination, which is within the budget.
Right.
And you need to learn to balance it that way. So budgeting, one thing. The second thing which one can actually be disciplined about is having enough amount of emergency coffers. We always think emergencies can only happen to our neighbors. But we've been working with so many clients, and we do see that, any day it can come to anybody. And that is the reason you need to be prepared for it. So at least 3 to 6 months of your expenses, you need to have it in liquid instruments. Third, have a systematic approach. Stick to a monthly and annual commitment. Let's say if you're saying that you're going to save 20,000 or 50,000 per month, stick to it. Just like you have your EMIs going for your home and car, let this be an EMI for your child's education, EMI for retirement, etc., etc. And obviously, we all have heard from Warren Buffett that actually you spend whatever is left after saving. So let all of this go between 1st to 10th of month, and then you live another 20 days out of whatever you left with. And let's say if you're deciding that I'm going to use my annual bonus to pay my home loan, stick to it. It's very important. Fourth thing, tag your investments to your goals. So, in India, we don't really have this concept. Whenever we invest, we just see what kind of investment is it, what kind of returns is it giving. And, if somebody influences it, like a friend or somebody from a family or a neighbor, if we see they've got it and they are liking it, we also go ahead and jump into it. But that's not the right way to invest. It's important for you to understand if it's matching your goal. And then after you invest, tag it to the goal that this is something I'm going to use for retirement. This is something for my home. This is something which I'm going to use it for my child's education. Right. And don't withdraw prematurely. You only withdraw when you're closer to the goal. You don't withdraw before that. Even if you do these 5 things, it will actually help you go a long way, according to me.
Those are the 5 habits to inculcate in yourself if you want to be more disciplined on your financial journey. Now, Khyati, what according to you is the importance of discipline in investment? Or rather, how can investors be more mindful throughout their journey? What are the kind of things that happen that require discipline in the investment journey?
Absolutely. So again, giving you a same analogy back to school, if we have our exams, the annual exams in the year, we cannot just study for 2 days and, say that, I'm going to clear it. No, it doesn't happen. You have to go to school, you have to take your classes, you have to study through the year to clear the examination. Right. So it's same when it comes to investing. You have to consistently keep doing to see the results. Like Warren Buffett, if you see his portfolio, for the first 20-25 years, his portfolio grew negligibly. But now every year it's growing like in leaps. The reason is the power of compounding, and that only comes in with time. The most important thing which I've seen here is procrastination. That is something which people keep doing when it comes to investment. That I don't want to do it now. This year, let me probably buy a bigger car. This year, let me have a good holiday. I'll start next year. I'm going to work till 60. Why start so early?
So that was one, and the power of compounding being a function of time. Those are my 2 takeaways.
You're listening to Moneywise, successful investment ideas that create wealth.
Did you know? As India's mutual fund industry grew to 40 trillion rupees AUM this year, the share held by retail investors for more than 2 years, which tends to be an indication of long-term investing, increased from 48.4% in 2017 to 56.5% this year.
Personal Finance Simplified, only on Moneywise.
With respect to, your experience having been in the industry, Khyati, you've managed several clients, you've watched their psychology as an investor. Do you have any examples where perhaps investors have been hasty in some decisions or have made uninformed decisions or paused their SIPs, for example, or exit the investment, and then they've come back and actually regretted it? Have you seen this happen to real people?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'll give you a recent example. One was during COVID, it was a black swan event, which none of us knew, like what's going to happen next. So that was a time when people came back to us and said they wanted to just pause their SIVs, they wanted to liquidate their money because they don't know what's going to happen next. And we had this client of ours who was somewhere in his early 50s, and he had his retirement plan at 60. And he was actually in this panic situation, and he was like, no, I just want to move everything to liquid. We tried to give him the data. We tried to tell him that, don't shift entire thing, just shift half of it. But he was in a panic situation and he wanted us to do that. So with his advice, we did that, and market actually recovered. I mean, we all have seen the kind of recovery that came into market after that.
Right.
And trust me, it has been almost 2.5 years to that decision. Even now, when I review his portfolio, he still repents that why did I do this? Otherwise, more than 50% would have been the growth had he not done that. One has to understand the reason why you have picked up this investment. And if that reason is still intact, fundamentally, if everything around the investment is still strong, you don't need to worry about what's going on around, because this is part and parcel. It's going to keep happening. So you don't really need to get concerned with this, but it is more important to stick to it and be disciplined with it. And that's when you'll actually see results.
I think some great examples. If there was any doubt in any listener's head about starting early or the importance of disciplines, I think you just wipe those away with your little duster, because I'm still hung up on the classroom and coach scenario, Khyati. And as always, right, there's always this on the blackboard, there'll be this thought for the day that the class teacher usually comes and writes, right? I'm not going to ask you just for one thought for the day, a few more pearls of wisdom that you from your experiences would like to share with our listeners today.
Sure. So first thing I would say is, again, have a discipline to review and rebalance your portfolio every year. That is something very important. So a lot of times I've seen that, once you start the investments and once you have everything in order, then you just feel like, okay, now everything is taken care of. No, it's not that. Financial world is very dynamic and ever changing. So it's important for you to keep reviewing it, and not just review, but rebalance it according to your asset allocation. So the second point is stick to your asset allocation. So according to your risk appetite, you will have a certain amount of money to be spread into equity, debt, real estate, commodities, and cash and cash equivalents. Right. So make sure that you stick to that asset allocation. And at the end of the year, let's say if equities have performed, obviously your exposure to equity would be higher, or vice versa. So make sure that you book those profits and park that money back into assets wherever there is a shortfall,
right,
in those asset classes. So that is something which is very important. Third thing I would say is don't be emotional with your investments, because moment you do that, the very purpose of investing gets actually diluted. And trust me, even I, like in my office for my portfolio also, I have an assigned financial coach. And I make a point to listen to my coach, and I don't deviate from my coach. So it's very important, because obviously even I'm going to have my emotions with my money, So it always makes sense to actually separate it and then look at it.
If a financial coach has a financial coach, then what is my excuse is the question I'm asking myself right now. And I think it was wonderful. You just put discipline in a whole different perspective, a financial kind of perspective for us over here. Although, like we said at the start of this podcast, it's not a word that we are very unfamiliar with. We try and we grapple with discipline in multiple areas of our lives. And why not when it comes to our financial and life aspirations? One more question I had for you, and this one is little out of the box, because I was curious to know how you started your financial journey. Who is that inspirational figure in your life? Was it Warren Buffett? I found 2-3 mentions of him in your story so far. Or was it someone in the family who said, now is the time, let's get started. You will earn your money and you will invest your own money. Don't ask me for money. Did that happen to you?
No, that none of it actually happened. So what happened is 2006, I had an opportunity to work for a very short period of time with CNBC Awas. And that's when I realized that, when it comes to financial literacy, we are actually very poor. And people really need this guidance and support. And that was a time when I realized that, if people get these kind of advice in their early age, then the life would be different. And that time, obviously, 2007, the penetration of digitization or internet was not that high. And actually, I was just probably at my second year of my graduation that time. So that was the time when I had this calling that I want to do something in personal finance space. That gave birth to this organization.
Fantastic. And I'm quite certain you were quite disciplined with your investments from that early age. And I'm doing these back of the envelope calculations over here and my mind is getting boggled. But Khyati, that is where I'm going to thank you for your time and for your guidance on the importance of discipline when it comes to financial habits and financial journey. It's been lovely catching up with you, and all the best to you and your organization.
Absolutely my pleasure, Sheetal. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me over at your podcast.
You're listening to Moneywise, brought to you by Bandhan Mutual Fund. Check out the rest of our series for more investment advice. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.